Hello, everybody. I'm Jeffrey Smith. I'm a clinical professor of psychiatry at New York Medical College, and I'm the author of an upcoming book, How Psychotherapy Works, Navigating the Therapeutic Space with Confidence. And today I want to help you understand narcissism and what to do about it, how to deal with a narcissistic person successfully. Narcissism is something that comes out of problems in development around age 2. And age 2 is a pretty simple age. And so it's not a big surprise that it really only takes understanding two basic principles to make sense out of what narcissistic people do and also how to deal with them. So let's jump right in. The first principle is that self-esteem is like a leaky tire. It's always going down. And that's very difficult for the narcissistic person. It means that they've got to pump it up frequently. Even after a big success, very soon they're still going to have to go out and get more praise and adulation and things to pump up their image of success and power and prowess. So that's a huge job. And the narcissistic person is fighting for life and death. This is how a 2-year-old perceives life and death. It's something that absolutely has to be sustained. And so that means they never run out of energy, and they certainly have more energy than anybody around them to do the things that are going to maintain their self-esteem. And the job of maintaining self-esteem trumps everything else. It trumps empathy, it trumps social norms, it trumps any principles that other people might follow. All go by the wayside when it comes to sustaining self-esteem that's always going down. So that's part of it. The other part, the other principle that helps to understand how narcissism works is that self-esteem is a zero-sum game. And what that means is that the narcissistic person feels better when other people feel worse. So when other people are going down, then the narcissistic person is going up. And when other people are going up, then the narcissistic person feels envious and less than and threatened. And so that person then, that narcissistic person is going to have to do something about it to even the scale. And so that's why there are really two sets of people involved here. There are the outsiders who need to be seduced and wooed and given all kinds of reasons to praise the narcissistic person and think that they're the greatest person in the world. And then there's the inner circle. And the inner circle are simply people who can be relied upon and who can be used to support the narcissistic person's self-esteem. And so those inner circle people are constantly experiencing probing for weakness and put downs. And that's very hard to live with. It's hard to sustain. And so that's the dilemma of the person who's in a relationship with a narcissist. That when they feel good when you feel bad, and when you feel good, they feel bad, and they'll do something to set things right for themselves. So those are the principles, and that really explains pretty much all of the criteria and the symptoms that you're going to find about narcissism. In fact, I recommend very much. The diagnosis is sometimes thrown around too easily and maybe overdiagnosed. So I really recommend that you look at the DSM-5 criteria on the internet if you have questions about somebody who seems to be narcissistic, and that'll help you distinguish. So now let's talk about what to do about it. First, the natural instinct that pretty much everybody has is it's very clear what the narcissistic person wants. They make that pretty clear. And so the natural instinct is to give them what they want, is to give them the adulation, to give in to their demands and make peace with them. Unfortunately, that is perceived as weakness. And narcissistic people, when they see weakness, they see an opportunity to put that person down, and they're going to feel better. And so showing weakness, unfortunately, is the natural thing to do, and it makes things worse. In marriages, frequently a narcissistic person will keep on putting down their spouse until the person feels like nobody at all, and then they discard that person and go for another one who seems more adequate. So it's a sad kind of thing. So that doesn't work. What does work? Well, I'm going to first tell you about the ideal things, the very best ways, the things that people who are really successful at being in a relationship with a narcissistic person will do. And the first thing that they do is to be strong, but not strong in a aggressive way, because people who are strong enough, who are really confident in their own self-esteem, understand that the narcissistic person can't help it. They're trapped in their own pathology. That's all they can do. Furthermore, any attempt to change them or to show them what they're doing and what's wrong with them, or even worse, to get them to change, all of those things are going to be experienced by the narcissistic person as put downs. And guess what they do when there's a put down? They're going to have to reverse things and put the other person down instead. So that's asking for trouble, and it doesn't work. But what does work is showing strength with sort of like an elder statesman. So strength without any barbs, without any innuendos, without any attempts to show the person anything, strictly neutral, just straightforward. And it might be, well, I can't accept that criticism, but I understand that's your point of view, and you're entirely entitled to it. Or or simply to ignore the put downs and make as if they didn't happen. So even if they do hurt, even if they draw some blood, showing that weakness is interpreted as weakness and is an invitation to attack. There's a special trick, though, for people who are not infinitely strong like that. For the rest of us who have some weakness and are actually hurt by those put downs and so on, there actually is a solution. And the solution is to own your weakness. If you say, yeah, that's me, I'm sensitive to these things, and they they hurt, and they even hurt to the point where sometimes I accidentally throw in a jab or something like that, and I'm sorry, I didn't really want to do that. That's very hard to attack because because accepting one's own weakness, accepting one's own humanness is a show of strength. So that's the way to deal with this when you're not somebody who is naturally, natively super self-confident and super comfortable with yourself. If you do get hurt and you do react, it still is okay as long as you own it. Now, there's on the internet, there's also something called gray stone. It's a technique for disengaging, for not engaging emotionally with a narcissistic person. And that does work. If you give that person nothing to grab onto, no opinions, no feelings, no nothing that they can make use of for a put down, it does work. But it also creates distance, and people really do need to be surrounded by, to have relationships. They're very sensitive to that. And so somebody walking away is a threat to a narcissistic person. And somebody who's disengaging is a threat. So what will they do? They will do everything they know how in order to get you to re-engage. And in other words, they will provoke. They'll say something that's going to get right to your heart and provoke you into a reaction, and then they're comfortable again because now they can go ahead with leading to a put down. So that's a pretty tricky thing to do. It's going to get a strong reaction from the narcissistic person. If you can hang on to it, then it will work. But I'd much rather, between all of the two different ways of responding, the one of responding with strength but no barbs and no attempts to change the other person, versus being withdrawing and disengaging, or even physically turning your back and walking away. I'd rather do the one that involves being strong enough to understand your vulnerabilities and your weaknesses and to own them and to show that you're comfortable with them. So those are some tricks. Now, I also have a blog and my website, and I would invite you to come and read the blog, which says much of this, but with a little bit more detail. And you'll find that at www.howtherapyworks.com. That's all one word. So howtherapyworks.com, and you'll also find some free resources and things that you can have, and many, many more blog posts. The one there about this topic is number 130. So there's many, many more behind it, all of them aimed at some topic that's of interest in relation to psychotherapy. So thank you for listening, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Bye-bye now.